Good afternoon and welcome then to the latest talking point this week. And for this week's edition, we've decided to have a look at Manchester United and the current saga with both transfers, their prospects for the season and how they're faring in their next few pre-season friendlies. Myself, Tom Hill and Simon Barlow will be looking at it for you. And Simon, we'll start off, I guess, it's the summer, it's the transfer window, and what better place to start with the ongoing rumours of Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez. All three have been linked with moves away. Pogba's the biggest of all. But it seems to be going on for ages. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer claims that he thinks they're going to stay put. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's all still up in the air, isn't it? Particularly regarding Paul Pogba's future. I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's playing a very good political game. You know, he's an inexperienced manager, but he knows how to play this one with Pogba, and he's trying to keep him on side for as long as possible. I do think it's basically down to Real Madrid and whether they can come up with the goods. United are going to hang on for a very big fee for Pogba, who had his best season in Red's colours last year, don't forget. But ultimately, the player has stated his wish to go, and that has forced United's hand into actually probably thinking what they should do now if it comes down to the last week of the transfer window and Pogba's still there and, you know, there's money on the table for him. Yeah,
it's an interesting saga with Pogba. Lukaku being linked with teams in Italy, elsewhere in Europe as well. But in terms of the incoming deals, they've been pretty busy as well, Manchester United, in terms of getting them in early. Dan James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, some decent fees there for the Red Devils to splash the cash. And it seems like Solskjaer's going with youth.
Yeah, I mean, United have had to reassess their transfer priorities, haven't they? They're going into the season with no Champions League football, like I say, with a relatively inexperienced manager in charge, certainly not the big name they've had in the past, and that's probably not going to attract the kind of player that they've been able to do in the past. So they've gone for these players a level down, maybe, players that can obviously become quality Premier League and maybe eventually world-class players, but they're not there yet. Wan-Bissaka's got loads of potential. We saw it for Crystal Palace last year. He's massive upgrade at right back for United. They've struggled in that position for a number of years. Dan James, you know, not a lot of people knew a lot about him, but I think from what I've seen of the Championship, he looks like a very good player with a big potential if he can, you know, just improve his final product essentially. But the tools are there for him to become a great player as well. Whether he'll get the chances in that star-studded Manchester United squad, it's up to him. If he takes his chances, as he has been doing in pre-season, then he could be a starter for the first game of the campaign.
Yeah, he certainly could. Could he be joined, though, by the man at Leicester City? Harry Maguire's future is the main talking points from the King Power Stadium. They keep seeming to be going back and forth, Manchester City and Manchester United. Who's going to win the race?
I think he's more likely to go to United than Manchester City, just because City have shown in the past they're not willing to go as far as United are in terms of wages and transfer fees. We saw it with Alexis Sanchez, and City certainly had the last laugh on that because Sanchez undoubtedly has been a flop. But City have their limits, and I think Harry Maguire, is, in terms of the bidding that United are putting on the table for Leicester, it's gone beyond City's limits for Harry Maguire. They'll look for other players now, I'm sure. But Harry Maguire, I think if he is going to move to Manchester United, it's got to be this week because Leicester will need time to find an adequate replacement.
Yes, there's a number of youngsters that have impressed so far in pre-season. United have played Perth Glory and Leeds United. Mason Greenwood is the man that's been getting all the plaudits. It's been a decent start to pre-season side, but the big games start to come now. They've got, you know, the likes of the Milan teams, Tottenham as well. So this is the big yardsticks for them.
Yeah, absolutely vital that United hit the ground running this season. Solskjaer's already spoken out about it a couple of times. He felt the players were not fit enough last year. Always referenced the running stats that just were below par on all the other Premier League teams, and so he's really worked them hard during this pre-season. I think you can see it in the early pre-season games as well. The amount of high-intensity runs the players are doing, the amount of tracking back, even players like Anthony Martial are working much harder than ever before. And I think that's going to be a factor we'll see in the early games this season, but they've got to hit the ground running because if they start badly, then the knives will be out for Solskjaer, and he knows it.
It certainly will. But last but not least then, Si, in terms of the prospects for the season, you know, everyone seems to be looking at Manchester City and Liverpool for a two-horse race for the title. People are trying to look at Chelsea with the Lampard saga, Arsenal with Unai Emery and their lack of spending. Just what are United going to do? It's been a big talking point this week about just how good United can be this year.
Yeah, I think the top two from last year will be the top two again this year, and they may well be again quite a long way ahead of the rest. But I think third, fourth, it's definitely there for Manchester United with the right recruitment and with, you know, hopefully a following wind and all the players getting on board with Solskjaer's tactics. I don't see them falling out of the top six. Now, there's a lot of clubs below that level last year that are looking to get into the top six, but I don't see United finishing below six. But it'll be third at best, hopefully sixth at worst.
Yeah, so fingers crossed for any United fans. So that wraps up this week's talking point from myself, Tom Hill, and Simon Barlow. Do, of course, let us know your feedback in our social media channels. Leave us some comments, and we'll be back soon.